Developing now, more fallout from our withdrawal from Afghanistan after top military officers called it a strategic failure and revealed that it could lead to a new terror threat.
The conditions could be set for a reconstitution of al-Qaeda and/or ISIS. It's a real possibility in a not-too-distant future, 6, 12, 18, 24, 36 months, that kind of time frame.
That warning came after the generals contradicted President Biden, saying they supported leaving a small troop presence in Afghanistan as we pulled out. Joining me now, Marine veteran who served in Afghanistan, Congressman Jake Auchincloss. He's a Democrat from Massachusetts. Good to see you, Congressman. And I want to start with that warning from General Milley. I know you think ending the war was right, but how worried are you about that, and what can be done about it?
It's good to be on. The United States maintains robust over-the-horizon counterterrorism capabilities that intertwine human and signals intelligence, unmanned aerial systems, and special operations. Those capabilities are active in dozens of countries around the world. They must remain active in Afghanistan and Central Asia, and this administration has committed to funding them and to supporting them to the extent necessary to prevent any attacks on the U.S. homeland.
What do you make of the revelation, Congressman, that the generals did advise the president to keep a troop presence, despite the president saying otherwise?
The nation's top generals offered their expert advice on what was optimal for the military situation in Afghanistan. But the commander-in-chief had to answer a bigger question than that. He had to answer the question about what was optimal for America's national security and international relations. And he knew that another decade of a failed forever war was going to distract American resources and attention from the true international threats that we face: climate change, global public health, counterterrorism. He is committed for American moral and strategic leadership on these fronts, and he knew that we had to retrograde from Afghanistan to be able to focus on those issues.
Let me ask you about where we are right now in Afghanistan, and first play for you what another congressman said about our allies in the region yesterday. Watch this.
Frankly, they're being slaughtered right now as we speak with our weapons, with our damn equipment. Our allies are being slaughtered. Every morning we wake up to beheading videos, to executions, to people being hunted down with our own database.
Congressman Waltz is a Republican, but of course, as you know, is also a veteran. What do you make of the situation on the ground right now, and what's your reaction to what he had to say?
I would remind my Republican colleague that it was President Trump who unilaterally committed to a withdrawal from Afghanistan that was not conditions-based, and who in fact accelerated that withdrawal despite stalled negotiations in Doha. This president executed the most successful airlift in history, getting 120,000 Afghan allies and refugees out of that country, who we are now resettling in the United States, and who are going to have opportunities and a standard of living never imaginable in their homeland.
But to his specific comment that these atrocities are being committed with our damn equipment, our weapons, what do you say?
The United States either demobilized or retrograded the vast majority of our equipment, and I think our nation's top generals acceded to that during their testimony yesterday. The atrocities being committed by the Taliban are being committed with the equipment that unfortunately they had available to them in the 1990s. This is a question of a regime and their approach to governance, not a question of American military equipment.
Of course, there are also some high-stakes negotiations going on right now on the Hill. You're a former Republican who became a Democrat. How do you plan to vote on the infrastructure and social safety net bills? And do you think Speaker Pelosi will be able to have a vote today?
We need to pass both of these bills. These bills are 21st century investments in health care, early education, and our physical infrastructure. We've got a tough 6 hours, 6 days, 6 weeks ahead of us of negotiations, but the results that we're going to deliver are going to be with us for years to come.
You think it could be 6 weeks?
I think that it's going to take as long as it needs to take for us to get the votes necessary. This speaker does not bring bills to the floor that cannot pass, and so we need to ensure that we have the votes. It would be helpful if senators who are holding out would give top line, timeline, and topics that they would consent to, because that could move the ball forward and create the trust necessary for us to pass both bills in sequence.
Congressman Jake Auchincloss, thank you so much for being with us. And coming up,